Grace and peace. I'm Brian Musser, the Baptist campus minister at Drexel, and we are here at Time Management is Spiritual, using our spiritual beliefs to make time management decisions. Now, I know you think that scheduling might be the issue here, but there are a lot of times when our time management revolves around more choices we make because of what we believe instead of choices we make because we are able to schedule things in a certain way. Let me give you a scenario that might help you understand this and might illustrate this, and we'll keep coming back to this scenario again and again throughout the session. You are a student. Since I'm a campus minister, I think in terms of what students' lives are like. But so you are a student and your grandmother is sick and actually in the hospital. And she's a very important person in your life. And you want to go visit her. But the time you could visit her is actually also conflicting with a scheduled group project assignment for one of your classes. So you have about 4 or 5 other students who have all worked their schedule to be at this meeting in which you are going to work on an assignment that is very important for your grade in the class, and it was somewhat difficult for you to arrange that meeting time with that many calendars, those calendars of those students, to find a time when you were all free to meet. But it's your grandmother. She's in the hospital, and she wants you to visit her. Those two things are in conflict. And it's not about scheduling. It's about beliefs. What is important to you? It's about values. It's about how you live your life more than how much stuff you can fit into what you're doing. So that's the scenario, and we'll keep coming back to it. But these are some of the questions I think we have to work through when we're talking about scheduling. How do I choose between multiple good options? Quite often, it's easy to make those decisions between something that is a bad thing to do and something that is a good thing to do. We can do that. Or when there's a lazy thing to do and a diligent thing to do. But what if these are good options? How do I say no to something that should be done? Now, this is a good thing and it ought to get done, but I need to say no to doing it. How do I live with the results of my choices? Quite often, a lot of us have guilt or feel a sense of guilt for what we haven't been able to do. And when have I done enough? When can I actually say, you know what, this week, today, my career, I have done enough? These are questions that are scheduling questions, are time management questions. But to answer them, you need more than a planner. You need a belief system. I suggest that there are 3 very important principles, and these are spiritual principles that help us deal with time management issues. Self-worth. Am I valuable? Sufficiency. Am I enough? And trust. Am I alone? Those 3 spiritual principles tie into our beliefs and our belief system in ways that help us figure out how to manage our time sufficiently, manage our time well. And those are not scheduling questions, those are belief questions. Each one of those topics will be one of the points I bring up in this lesson, so that's kind of the outline. We're going to talk about self-worth, we're going to talk about sufficiency, and we're going to talk about trust over the next several minutes of this thing. So starting off with self-worth. Am I valuable? Often people find their value within what they do or what others think and say about them. Now, this causes problems. What happens when you can't do something? What happens when you have to say no to someone? Looking at our original scenario, how you look at yourself based on what your grandmother thinks about you or what your group thinks about you. If you have an external locus of self-worth, I am valuable because of what people think about me, that might change how you make this decision. What if my grandmother no longer likes me because I had to tell her no? What if the students that I have to work with no longer get along with me because I had to reschedule? What will they think about me? Also, because of what you do, I am a good person, so I will go visit my grandmother because that is a good thing to do. It's nice to visit, it's good to visit grandmothers in hospitals. Or I am a diligent student, so my schoolwork and getting good grades and figuring out um, academics is a way I show value to myself. So that is, I will choose that side because I prove my worth through my accomplishments. So when we have an external sense of self-worth, either through relationships or through accomplishments, that will determine how we make time management decisions. That creates this idea, okay, so if I need to do things to prove I'm valuable, what happens when I can't do something? That creates stress in our life because it's actually hitting our identity, it's hitting our self-worth, it's hitting our value. Or I am valuable because of what other people think about me, but I have to tell this person, no, I can't do that. I'm not able to do that. What will they think about me, and how will what they think about me affect how I view my own worth and my value? These are things that religious beliefs, Christian beliefs, spiritual beliefs can affect. We want to transition out of that. We want to transition with what we do from needing to do something to prove my worth. I need to prove my worth, to choosing to do something because it is something I want to do or what I should do. Now, I'm a Christian pastor. I know not everybody listening to this may or may not be Christian, but my self-worth is rooted in my relationship with God through Jesus Christ. The image of God is in me, and I am valuable because God has said I am valuable. There is something valuable in every single person in human being. That is what I believe. And that is independent upon what other people think of me, and it is independent upon my accomplishments. No matter what I do, and no matter who likes me, I am valuable. So that changes how I look at this situation, and I don't see, my self-worth dependent upon whether or not I visit my grandmother or whether or not I get a good grade and am liked by my academic group. My value rests in my identity with Christ connected through God. So that changes how I look at a scenario like this. I have to say, what do I want to do? What is the best thing I can do? Not what will make me worthwhile or what will make me valuable in this situation. I can talk about what is the best thing. What do I value the most? Do I value bringing comfort to my grandmother the most? Or do I value academic performance the most and success? Or do I value integrity? Saying I'll be there or making sure other people's academic success is on the line as well. Which one do I want to do? What should I do? Not what must I do? Having an established self-worth from a philosophical worldview, usually spiritual and or religious, my Christian beliefs establishes my self-worth, allows you to see most time management decisions as free choices. In this scenario, I don't have to prove my worth by visiting my grandmother. I don't have to prove my worth by being in this group setting. Which one is most beneficial to me, which one is the best decision for me to make, is now a free choice. Which one do I value most? Hopefully you can kind of see where we're going with that. That is self-worth. That is, am I valuable? Answering that question changes the perspective of how you look at time management decisions. Next, sufficiency. Am I enough? Often people concentrate on what they are unable to do. What happens when we run out of time or need to be in two places at once? What happens when there is something good that needs to be done that is beyond our capabilities? Now, here we see a scenario, there are two good things. Visiting the grandmother and being part of this group project. Those are two things, and they're directly contradictory. Now, I know we can figure out a scenario where, well, maybe you do one or the other, or maybe you have your group meet here or there, or, you just figure out a way. But let's just hold those two and imagine in our imaginary scenario, those two are in direct contradiction with each other. I need to be in two places at once. I can't be in two places at once. We are working on that at Drexel, kind of, no, just kidding. We aren't cloning people or anything like that. How do I make a decision which I have to choose one because doing both is beyond me? Am I enough? I want you to see this transition. Quite often in this scenario, we concentrate on the things that can't be done instead of focusing on accomplishing that which you are the perfect person to do. If you were in the scenario and you had to make a choice to visit your grandmother or join this group project, quite often when you were at your if you chose to visit your grandmother, what's the thought that would be running through your mind the entire time you were with your grandmother? Quite often it would be about the decision you said no to. It would be about not being at the group project, and vice versa. If you chose to take part in the group project, in your mind, you would be looking at what you couldn't do, which was visit your grandmother. Quite often, we have a negative view of time management skills. The first one was an external view where my self-worth was dependent upon what others outside of me thought of me or what I could accomplish. This is a negative view. We concentrate on that we can't get done instead of concentrating on what we are able to do. Think through this. Is visiting your grandmother a good thing? Obviously, yes. So if you chose to do that, you chose to do a good thing. No matter what you didn't choose, what you chose not to do, doesn't matter. What you are doing, what you chose to do, visiting your grandmother is good and it brings good into this world. You did something good. Now, is working with others on a group project for an academic grade a good thing, especially if you had already arranged to be there and kind of promised to be there in the advance, keeping your promise to meet with them a good thing? Yes. If you chose to do that, you chose to do a good thing and bring good into this world. And we can only do one. And we should not be measured on the things we can't possibly do. So there is no scenario where you would have been enough to do both of them. You chose to do one thing, and it was a good thing. So you need to choose to think about the good you did instead of dwell on the negative thing that you could not do. Am I enough? This is the theological thing, understanding that what you are supposed to be doing will never fall outside of what is possible for you to do. Now, I believe there's a God. I believe that God created me. I believe I'm in a relationship with that God through Jesus Christ. I believe that at times that God has very important things for me to do. I believe that God is in control of the universe. That God asks me to do stuff. Now, sometimes that God will ask me to do hard stuff, which challenges me, what drives me forward into becoming a better person. I need to learn how to do things better. But that God will never ask me to do stuff that is impossible for me to do. God will never, if you're a Christian, your God will never ask you to do something that you can't do. So, if you have two contradictory things, I can't do both of them. You're not supposed to do both of them. You're supposed to do one and not the other. That is the way God has aligned things. You are enough to accomplish everything that God has designed for you to accomplish. Now, there are some times where God challenges us and helps us to grow through giving us more than we think we can accomplish, or helps us show sin in our life where He's trying to root out, say, laziness or sloth, or challenging us to grow in our competency to be able to do more than we have before. That's not the situation I'm talking about. I'm talking about a situation where there are two things and you can't do both. God isn't asking you to do both. You are enough to do everything God wants you to do. Now, looking at the last point, am I alone? Often people feel a sense of guilt over those things that they decide not to do, as if things getting done were completely and only depended upon you. If you want something done, you got to do it yourself. Are you alone? The transition in this idea is from feeling guilt over not doing what you weren't supposed to do to trusting others, including God, to get done the important things that you can't do. So, if you can't do both, visit your grandmother in this work project, in this group project. If you can't do both, you're not supposed to do both. So something is, if it needs to be done, if your grandmother needs to be visited, and this group project needs to be completed at this certain time, and you can't do both, then you're not supposed to do both. Then probably someone else is supposed to do one of those two things, or it's not supposed to get done. Now think this through. Could there be someone else who could visit your grandmother? Not you, but somebody else who could take care of your grandmother and visit your grandmother during those times that she wants to see you and go in your place. Whether that's another family member, whether that's another person that could be there for you. Or could your group somehow pick up the slack and help you participate in a different way? Now, it might be asking them to do more work. It might be asking them to adjust in a certain way. It might be depending upon them to get stuff done that you could have done better when you are by yourself. Is there a way you can trust them to do this? Also, ultimately, trusting God. Will your grandmother understand? Will God help your grandmother understand? Will you be able to still achieve everything you want in life, even if you miss this one group meeting? Can God work in your favor when you are not even there? Or is everything in this life completely dependent upon your participation in it? Can God bless you beyond your active activity in it? Now, thinking this through this, we like to be independent. We like to think the whole world revolves around us and things getting done are our way. But we need to understand that those things you are not supposed to be doing are either someone else's responsibility or not supposed to be done. There are good things in this world that you are not supposed to do. You can't do everything. You need to concentrate on doing those things that God wants you to do and letting others do those things that are not your responsibility. God has somebody else in mind to accomplish those. And sometimes when we say yes and try to do things that are not our responsibility, we are taking things out of their hands that God want to use them to do, and we are superseding God's intentions for their life. God might want them to grow through this opportunity. Now, it's interesting. Trust has two sides of it. I mean, whenever I talk about group projects with students, some of them have worked with other students that were untrustworthy. Those students let them down, and they knew they should not have trusted on them. But oftentimes, students walk into group projects with an attitude that is untrusting. They just assume that the people around them are not able to be depended upon. They work from the idea if you want something done, you should do it yourself. They have built up, because humans quite often let us down, they have built up this attitude that they shouldn't depend on others, that they shouldn't trust in others. And quite often we look at God this way as well. I want you to examine whether or not you are untrusting or those around you are untrustworthy. Oftentimes, trusting in God to accomplish things that you can't actively participate in the doing of helps us to build our faith in God, helps us to build our trust in God, helps us to relate to God in a way that we would never have the opportunity to do if we didn't. So those are the basic ideas of what's going on here. I just want to summarize these things. Time management is spiritual. If you get these principles, you'll be good. You do not have to prove your worth based on your beliefs, especially if you're a Christian. You are valuable outside of what you do and what people think about you. Your time management can depend on what you want to do and not what you have to do. You are enough. Everything God wants you to do is possible for you to do. You can complete it. You do not have to do stuff that is impossible for you to do to please God. And you are not alone. You can trust in others around you. You can trust in God to get things done that you might not be able to do yourself. Those three spiritual principles will help you make time management decisions that you can live with, that you don't feel guilty over, that don't stress you out. You can understand that if you have to choose between two things. You're doing something good, and you don't have to worry about what you can't get done. Now, moving forward, just that's the session. I do want to take this time to invite you to a Monday night Bible study every Monday night at 7 p.m. The good news, the gospel is good news for every person at every part of life. There are two ways for you to be part of that live Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Zoom. And I also, like this video, do weekly wrap ups on YouTube and WordPress if you want to join us. Here is kind of a schedule of things we are going. The Find a Church is well past, but that Peace and Power Bible study at Mondays at 7. Tuesdays, I do a male discipleship. Wednesdays, I have a faculty and grad student meetings during that time. And Thursdays, we take a little bit of a lunch break called Time Out and pray over lunch during our work schedules. If you want to be involved in any of those, reach out to me. My contact information will be in the description or on the blog, and you can reach out to me via social media. I am all over the place: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, WordPress, and YouTube. The links for those will be in the descriptions below as well. It was good talking to you, and hopefully this was helpful for you to figure out how to use your spiritual beliefs in your time management decisions. Enjoyed talking to you and hope to chat with you again sometime real soon.